Okay, so this first article we have is the Korean students at Harvard demand professor's apology over controversial claims on comfort women, which you know what comfort women are. They're the women who were sex slaves to the Japanese military during wartime back in the day. Have
hmm
you have you seen this article at all? Did you hear about it?
No, I haven't seen this article specifically, but there's always something going on about this topic.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
Well, the big thing now is that a Harvard professor has published this paper that basically the gist of it is that the comfort women or these sex slaves were in a transactional. It was more transactional than what like Koreans will say. Koreans they call them sex slaves. Like there's no choice for these women to work for the Japanese army. Um, but this guy, he his name is J. Mark Ramsier. He
hmm
basically said in his paper that it was more transactional, like the women not exactly volunteered to do it, but they willingly went along with it,
hmm
which of course angers all of Korea, which right could be rightfully so. But my whole focus on this article was how Koreans in general seem to really covet institutions, like high status institutions. And Harvard is one of those that, like, when you ask a student, like, what their dream university would be, they would say Harvard every single time.
Oh yeah.
Harvard in the minds here is like this be all end all top school. But as things have sort of developed in the U.S. Politically and things like you start to see the cracks in the foundations of some of the institutions that maybe 10 or 15 years ago we thought were untouchable or like the pinnacles of in this situation pinnacle of academia. So
hmm
when this happens, like it's a sad thing, but at the same time I'm kind of glad this is happening because maybe it will sort of create a little criticism of these high level institutions that people hold so dearly. Like maybe now um, there'll be a little skepticism about this about Harvard in general. Um, the Harvard Korean Society has lodged a complaint about this paper, um, and so yeah, I don't know. I like that this kind of thing could happen. That maybe there's now a skepticism of wait a minute, this institution was supposed to be like for us and for the truth and whatever, and now that it publishes an article that goes counter to what a majority of this country would believe. I don't know. It seems interesting to me. But what do you think about it?
Oh, I'm just not in the right mood today.
Well, I don't. My
So,
focus.
well,
Let me give you a little. Let me frame it up for you. Like my, I don't want to talk about the comfort women thing because we can go on forever about that. Both sides. My focus is it. This is not just in Korea. It's like the whole world is experiencing this shakeup in how we view institutions. Like it's very obvious now. Well, everybody knew that like Fox News was the, for example, the sort of right wing media source, and like it was sort of known that CNN was, but now it's becoming like more apparent that CNN is. And like academic institutions, you could sort of see based on their policies, like which ways they're swinging. Like there doesn't seem to be a middle point anymore. Like you could see more clearly what institutions and organizations and academia which ways they're swinging. And so I think
hmm
it's good for this country as well, who are not going through what is happening in America, to sort of have that realization. I'm hoping they have that realization as this kind of stuff happens. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I totally agree with you that institutions should be challenged, especially high-ranking academic institutions. That is the basis of of graduate education, is to challenge and to bring new ideas to the table, and don't just accept things blindly. I mean, that's literally the that's critical thinking, which is something that I truly believe in, and I think that that is what most higher level institutions promote. They promote critical thinking, but then when you actually um, critically think in an area that puts them at risk, then it's wrong, which I totally agree with you on that. I think that needs to continue.
Mm.
Don't accept things at face value. Harvard professors should be questioned. Community college professors should be questioned. CEOs should be questioned, not necessarily to make them out to be bad guys, but to like promote progression. That's how things continue to get better. And I don't think that anyone is above that.
Mm.
And so I totally agree with you. I think that that needs to happen. Hats off to these Korean students and the Korean organization who are actually challenging this higher level institution. I don't think that that happens. I don't know. Maybe they don't feel as threatened by doing it in the US than they would in Korea. I didn't see it as much in Korea. The last couple years, a lot more with the Me Too movement, but previously you just don't, and historically you just don't question high level organizations and institutions in Korea.
Mm.
That is changing, but
Yeah, it is, and I think it's definitely being influenced by the younger generation. Um, I'm amazed. Like now, since you've left the country, there's been a huge like swell of, especially students who are just abandoning the dream, quote unquote, of like go to university, get a job. Like there's all these stories coming out of about these YouTubers in Korea, especially that are making like hand over fist money from just YouTube, and so like more and more students are realizing, wait a minute, I could make more money just quitting school and going to YouTube than spending like 5 years getting this degree, spending 2 more years, maybe taking some like qualification test to maybe get a job with a moderate salary. Like people are starting to wake up to that, and some of the major like TV shows have highlighted these YouTubers, and it's becoming more aware that there are more options in the world than just what has been
mhm,
like created and the standard way of thinking, which up I think you would agree, like since we've been in the country and before that, like there it's been pretty rigid, the standard way of thinking. But since like this past year and COVID and everything and how everything was turned upside down, like it's
mhm.
sort of upended all standard ways of thinking. And I don't know. I don't know if there's going anything going back to that. It's just kind of interesting. It's been interesting to see sort of like that rigid standard way of thinking sort of shift and move.
Mhm.
Has it been the same in
Well,
the U.S. like people's thinking about that kind of stuff?
I think that naturally it has been evolving that way. And I think more so for Korea because in the US, school is valued, but being independent and being self-reliant is even more valued than going to school. Still, uh, you can be a plumber and make a really good living in the US. You can start your own business. Lots of other options where in Korea, going to the Sky University, Seoul University, Korea University, Yonsei University still puts you at the highest echelon of society. That's not necessarily true in the US, and it hasn't been that way as much as it is in Korea. And so, um, but I do see this huge shift in what constitutes a good job and what constitutes being educated. I personally, I don't think that university is for everyone. I think that university has changed completely from what it used to be. It used to be this place where you had to have a certain um, you had to have certain characteristics to go to university, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that it's elitist or anything like that, but when people say that universities are a safe space, I get triggered. It's because they're not a safe space. The core principle of going to school is to be able to learn new things and be challenged. Oh, but no, you're gonna hurt somebody's feelings. Sorry, physics is physics, bitch. Like, I mean, that's just how it is. And I had university professors, especially in my graduate courses, that I would turn in papers and they would just cross out massive sections of my papers and be like, "This is crap,"
Mm-hmm.
and it made me better.
Mm-hmm.
It made me better. And so I think that um, if people are looking for jobs, university is not necessarily the place to be. University is like has this, in my mind, it did have this idea of becoming a professional in your specific academic field and being extremely knowledgeable and being able to like apply that knowledge. But that doesn't necessarily get you a job.
Mm. Yeah, I think
And so,
the bachelor's degree itself is has been so watered down
yeah, it's
because
completely watered down. It's a
yeah,
dime a dozen.
it's worthless now.
So, yeah, I think so. And that's horrible because we're both educators.
Well,
But
that's the thing. Like I've been thinking, is there a way for me to sort of exit the academic field and like pivot? But I've spent all this time and especially money on my degrees to teach this specific thing. Like, do I want to then spend more money trying to pivot to something else? Like I'll need to get another skill, so I'll need to pay something, whether it's to school, whether it's to like a technical college or a tutor or something. I'll need to spend more time and more money to get a new skill if I want to pivot to something else. So I've been going back and forth in my brain like, do I just want to stick this out or is it time to make the move? I don't know.
well, I think you're still thinking as what I was describing is that education is going to get you a job instead of you being able to build your own job. And I think that that's a huge shift in thinking now. Um, and I think that it's a good thing. If you want to have a job, you can build your own job. That's that's one of the best parts about the US. But I'm not saying that education is worthless, not at all. It's just so far away from what it used to be. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
when someone had a PhD, you knew you were talking to someone that was at the top of their field because they had to go through this rigorous system of being challenged.
Mm-hmm.
And now, what, you can get a PhD in your own creativity? Like, come on.
You worthless.
And I do think that there's a place in education to explore. I think that that's again at the heart of it, but you also need to be able to be challenged in your exploration, or else you're just going to go unchecked and you're not going to learn anything. But anyway, yeah,
All right.
challenge those Harvard professors, man.
For real.